Thanks, Alex. Not too much churn during coffee, which is always good. So we are, for those who don't know, we're a mobile vouchering platform, but we're much more than that. This is not about us per se, although there is going to be some illustrations here, but I think the key to this deck and this presentation will be there are other flavours available. So if you think I'm going far too down the what we do approach, then wave hands and we're going to start throwing oranges. But at this stage, I guess a small bit of introduction. Some of you know me from much longer ago and some more recently. My background is I've worked across media brands and FMCG companies and various interesting brands, including Saga at one point. But most recently I ran new business development for France Telecom, and in that case in the UK, Orange. So many of these technologies are kind of close and in some not so close to my heart. But hopefully I'll just give you a bit of a view to how we're taking the mobile interaction beyond vouchering and far more into engagement and mutual reward. And on that kind of note, I'll give you a quick 10 o'clock news job. Quick word about what we are. Talk about how vouchers are and need to get smarter. A little conversation about what value means, because that's becoming increasingly important, particularly in our world. A bit of a lecture about the difference between shoppers and consumers, and in fact why it doesn't really matter. And the key part, which is around why driving insights through mobile is, I'll give you the sweet spot. And then finally some examples, I hope some interesting examples of some of the technologies that are in play and that can be integrated and interwoven into any of these platforms, including our own. So, what is Shoppertise? Well, we're a mobile marketing platform. We deliver targeted offers, as you expect us to. But most importantly, we are targeting and then rewarding shoppers based entirely on their known purchasing habits. That is done by our recognising and reading everything that is on their supermarket receipt, regardless of whether or not we instigated the offer. So we start to understand categorisations, we start to understand clustering of products, and we particularly understand times of day, types of shop, which helps us, particularly in the branded environment, start to track in real time behavioural changes, the kinds of movements between hypermarkets and convenience shopping, high ends to discount, and particularly propensity to activate and act on discounts. The shoppers earn rewards by accessing those offers, but importantly by engaging with brands, and vice versa. It's very much about mutuality, and we'll touch on that a bit later on. And obviously the socialisation of those experiences. And then obviously, once creating that mutual rewarding relationship, we're able to extract those unique insights, which then go back into the shopper marketing process to inform and activate real-time tomorrow marketing. So rewards remain effective, that they need to be smart. And so the message that we give and that our 4 months of piloting with around 30,000 shoppers has shown us is that face value is so interesting, but it isn't the be all and end all. If we halve the discounts and make the relevance and the engagement significantly more relevant, then we don't see a fall off in response. And that's the key part of the finding. I think the key message that we give out, certainly to brands, is that it's much more about the experience and the reward and the perception and reality of delivering a mutually rewarding engagement than it is about simply discounting and cutting. We know that promotions still influence shopping behaviour, and particularly now, we're seeing that socially demographically moving across the landscape, and we're starting to see far more. So when we overlay against known demographics, we see far more A/B activation, we see far more shopping around. We're seeing split shopping engagement, so we're seeing people use one store for certain kinds of shopping, and then also on the same day going into a discount store to purchase another range of items. That sort of genuinely supports the theory that it's what we used to call savvy shopping is probably slightly more sophisticated rather than savvy. Certainly users like to think of themselves as having had thought and action around the offers that are available to them. But engagement is increasingly the key metric, and establishing that long-term mutual loyalty is the way to emerge, I guess, with a view of a shopper and a strategic and tactical plan to activate them. But actually, we kind of, and certainly my old marketing hat says that the legacy of what you're trying to achieve is still the same, but you're able to do it in a single platform across a tactical engagement. And by that I mean that you can certainly attract them, by being relevant and timely and convenient. You can guide them with information and advice and get across some brand value, so we do a lot of content marketing engagement, and we certainly see brands using things like recipes and user-generated content and advice between shoppers about what they do. That's definitely how people are using their phones in store. And then finally, influencing. So ultimately that's what couponing has historically been about, but actually if you don't do the early stuff, the influence becomes less and less as you run through the value pipe. What does value mean to shoppers in 2013? I think there's some debate around this, but I think certainly discounting price has definitely become confused with value. I think shoppers see through value when it's discounted always, particularly when it's deep discounted. I think a number of other messages around brand values can definitely deliver value, but I think there's also clear indication that there is a degree of recession burnout, I guess. I don't think it's accepted as an expression yet, but certainly in the States where some of this stuff is now really coming to fruition, you're seeing brands like Walmart actually give certain shoppers different kinds of carrier bag, so they're not identified with a discount product. And I think you're seeing that increasingly happen. I think when you see retail brands like Lidl start to open convenience stores in classically A/B commuter environments, the blur between what represents value and what represents a discount is increasingly going to be more difficult to identify in pure terms. And shoppers do want to feel better about themselves, and they definitely want to feel they own a brand. They don't want to feel like customers. And I think we see that certainly with some of the socialisation. I know some of you will certainly be doing a lot of work around the social networks and Facebook and Twittering and so on. Those things are around making customers feel like owners of a brand rather than customers of it. But I think, excuse me, combining incentives with education and delivering a full bundle through a mobile device is where we're coming from. I think is where a lot of the other flavours that are available are concentrating their efforts. And I think delivery of a discount voucher on its own in mobile space is not enough today. And I think you need to tie it in and integrate it with much broader messaging and much wider strategic ambition. Do they think they're different? Well, we think they are. And I think it's slightly lectury, but I think the different parties that are involved in the delivery chain here have long tried to create a science around consumer segmentation and around understanding what data really tells them about shoppers. From our point of view, I think the ability now to engage shoppers when they're not actually in a store, so away from an in-store promotion or a point of sale, means that there is a more considered approach going on in the shopper's mind, so the choice they're making when they get in and what they put into their basket. And the ability to influence that on the road, so outside of their buying experience, is where mobile really comes into its own. Clearly there is a way of activating people online, and there are lots of technologies around to allow you to flip things into a basket or a favourite list. But increasingly it's about engaging through the week to enable somebody to activate or to recognise or to reward themselves and you for keeping that engagement going through a week. And I think the line, if it hasn't blurred to invisibility, will continue to do so. And the empowerment process is really around data and insights. I think that there's a whole bunch of sort of scientific approaches that both retailers and brands are undertaking at the moment. A lot of it is around the change in habits, around shrinking families, around the commoditisation of prices and discounting, more products at smaller stores. But if you look at some of the retail figures that have been coming out in the last few weeks, you'll see that the growth in convenience stores particularly is making even Sainsbury's and Tesco change their mind about where their investment ought to be going in a retail sense. And I think it's a suggestion that the supply chain really needs to change. You need to be highly reactive and then at the same time highly predictive around what people really want and how they really shop, and then make all of your promotion, all of your discounting, all of your advertising pertinent to that shopping behaviour, rather than in a pure sense trying to drive people into a £200 trolley shop, because I think in real terms it's just far too competitive an arena to achieve that in the mobile space. I think clearly in-store shopping will evolve, and we'll start to see moving screens and holograms and all sorts of activation tools happening in store. But the mobile it has to stay individual, it has to stay about the person, it has to be personalised and relevant, and it has to create that engagement on a longer term basis than just in store. Just as an example of how we do things, and again there are other flavours, we kind of introduce people to the offers and the rewards through a standardised sort of what they would be used to seeing, but then we take them on a slightly different journey. So we'll offer a mutually rewarding engagement in the middle, which will either be about new product development or feedback around the brand, or learn a fact about a product, or socialise it with your friends, or upload a recipe. So this is effectively endless. I mean, as mobile should always be. It's not limited by the technology, it's empowered by it. And we find, and I know there's a hearty degree of scepticism around how many people want to scan and how many people want to take photographs and how many people want to justify and make credible their shopping experience. But we definitely see the engagement go up when the more we ask shoppers to do, the more likely they are to take something through to a purchase. And that's ultimately what we're about. I think ultimately what most of the people in this room are about. Taking somebody to a till and making them part of cash is still the end game. And certainly brands quite enjoy the instant capability of asking somebody a question whilst they are activating a voucher or a discount or a reward of any sort, which says, how are you using your phone today? How often do you activate a discount? Do you buy any of our other flavours? And we then take that to a further degree, and I think certainly that's what technology lends itself to recognise if this is a third or fourth or fifth or first purchase by that person of this product, and to act accordingly, to deliver something that is personalised around what that person's history is with that brand and what is most likely to embed them as a buyer of that brand. So the driving of data and insights is I think key. Certainly every brand that I speak to, and this kind of goes, this predates my shop side experience, are increasingly driven by the data that they're able to extract, but most importantly by the actionable insights that they're able to deliver out of the back of that data. I think most people have a bucket or a warehouse full of shopper data. Some of it on a really granular level around people's shoe sizes and where they live and what kind of jobs they have, and others simply around a loyalty scheme of some sort or a VIP club. The truth or the real value, the goldmine lies somewhere in the middle of that, is around understanding at what stage of a brand journey or a discount journey somebody is at, and whether you really need to be deep delivering discount to them. That might sound counterintuitive, but there is genuinely no point through a mobile in rewarding past behaviour, particularly so, more so even than paper couponing. And I think going forward, there's a real need to recognise at that point where somebody is in the journey and to deliver an experience or a reward that is entirely pertinent to where they are in that chain. So if they are a repeat buyer, if they are buying lots of volume repetitively with high frequency and so on of your product, you should recognise that there and then and deliver something that's unique to that experience. Similarly, if it's a first time purchaser, you really need to be giving them a pat on the back and saying thanks very much, well done, what did you think of the product, and inviting some feedback. You can push them into a social environment, get them to explain how they found it, to socialise that experience and so on. All of that ought to happen inside the platform. And anybody who is trying to weave 3 or 4 engagements across the physical, digital and then mobile spectrum, if there is a difference between those two, is you are constantly fighting the drip effect that everybody's seen through basket checkouts online, and which will also be repeated on mobile. If you haven't encapsulated the experience and you haven't given somebody the cradle to grave purchase path, if you like, then you are going to lose quite a lot of them. And that's our big challenge. I think anybody in this space has a challenge to keep buyers engaged and keep shoppers engaged and keep them rewarded. In terms of the really valuable insights, I think from our point of view, clearly it's around pure knowledge of what people buy. It's not sentimental, it's actual, it's real purchasing, and it's driven by real money because the rewards and the cashbacks happen after the event. So we know that there's a degree of willingness to purchase, and so our capability of effecting a change of behaviour is high. And the way we execute that is by running time campaigns. We do things that only happen at lunchtime, we do things that only happen in certain stores, and we group together products that aren't necessarily bed mates. So we'll look at a lunchtime offer and we'll perhaps mate an apple with a bottle of water and a chocolate bar. 3 things that would never normally live together in a sales promotion. and we're able to deliver a reward based on which of those 3 items that person was least likely to have added to their lunchbox. And that is quite a powerful way of making sure that you are always activating somebody who was worth activating, in the sense that it wasn't a habitual purchase. And I think that's the key to mobile. If you're not using it as the killer tool of direct marketing, then you are definitely missing a trick in this space. I now wish, having heard what happened earlier today, or most of the feedback from the floor, I wish I'd put in a bit more about how our technology works. But we have found absolutely no drop-off. We get about 74% of our downloads go on and use the app, snap, and upload receipts. So there's no question that it has more stickability than I suspect the industry thinks it does. The key to it clearly is making it a rewarding experience. And I think the key beyond that will be for us to stay as modern and as relevant as we possibly can. And a whole bunch of technologies that are coming into play now, and I'll just give you a couple of examples of what's happening kind of around the world and around the space. So everybody's seen a QR code, everybody knows what activating a mobile looks like. But in certain parts of the world, I think this one's in Japan, huge wall of butterflies. If you wave your phone up and catch a butterfly, you get an instantaneous reward that is only relevant to that butterfly at that point. And you take it into the store and you activate it. It's a brilliant way of just getting somebody used to using a phone. It isn't the end game. The end game here is for them to ultimately deliver things that are working off of packs. But you won't get people to scan packs unless you've got them using the technology. And I'll kind of share a bit of experience here. I mean, Alex and I were laughing earlier on about the first time we saw a QR code, 15 years ago, Mike, I think. And the relative sadness there is that there's a take-up rate of about 15% of that technology, which ultimately is a great deliverer and one of the best things that a mobile can do for a user, other than recall or send a text. And I think the reason that it hasn't been used is I don't think the education's been there. I don't think the value chain has been effective, so I think the people who use them aren't necessarily using them for a reward. I don't think the shopper gets a great deal out of it. And I think there are a lot of other technologies which are going to go down that route. And you'll hear lots talked about, possibly today, certainly in the future, around NFC, around mobile payment functionalities, around geo-tracking of people around stores and what people do once they open a discount. All of those things are relevant, but they have to be encapsulated and they have to deliver a genuine, relevant and valuable experience to the user, otherwise they will be binned in the way that QR codes have slightly been binned up to now. But this is an interesting way of using them. I think in terms of an increasingly intrusive technology, I think Facebook's ability now to listen to your chat and to deliver advertising / promotions entirely based on that, much like it's slightly big brothery, certainly is an indication of where this technology will go. So for those that aren't aware of what our friends at Facebook do, if you are talking about the Champions League final, they will deliver you a Carlsberg advert based on that chat that you're having. The take-up rates are extraordinary, part of which may well be down to novelty, but I think also because it's a proof that relevance is everything. And I don't think users mind if you're relevant, how intrusive you are. But the key, clearly, as always, is relevancy. And then there are the pure activation stuff, the kind of timely part of being savvy and relevant. Some of you may have seen the McDonald's advert where your McFlurry melts over time. And if you don't get to McDonald's early enough, your McFlurry has gone. You will see this increasingly used. If you market to a mobile device, and it is ultimately the killer application of direct marketing, you really ought to be getting something to act relatively quickly on that offer. If you don't, then you are opening them up to a world of competitive communication, and you aren't being timely, you aren't being relevant to them at that moment in time. And that remains the key thing to do. I'm now going to kind of finally leave you with a kind of vision of the future, if technology doesn't let me down. This is something that was done by an agency. They won, it was actually, of all places, it was done in Guatemala. And it won an award, I think, at Cannes, at the Marketing Awards. We might have to watch an advert if YouTube aren't there. That wasn't it, that was the advert.
Yeah, I'm in the Nike store. There he is, he's getting the message. There's a promotion for
Ultimate,
Meatpack.
timely,
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, we got him.
campaign.
Meatpack is the trendiest shoe store in Guatemala, a brand known for its edgy, cutting style and a store known for its unique discounts in limited edition kicks including brands like Adidas, Nike and Reebok. An icon for the sneakerhead subculture with over 60,000 fans on their fan page in less than a year. They needed to launch a new promotion to live up to their hardcore fans, an innovative way to earn your discount. We created Hijack, an enhancement for the official Meatpack app used by our customers, using GPS tracking technology that marks every competitor's store of the brand sold at Meatpack. So every time one of our sneakerheads enters one of the stores, it triggers a special notice with a promotion. Hijack sends an alert to the person's mobile with a discount that starts at 99% and decreases by 1% every second that goes by, making the countdown stop until you reach our store. More than 600 customers were hijacked from the competitors in a week. One customer, Pedro Rodriguez, got a record-breaking 89% discount. This is the first promo campaign that started the sale in the competitors' stores.
So, I mean, the message behind that, with all the fun and games of people running around shopping centres, is that the capability of competitors and yourselves to target people in real time around what they're actually doing, and then rewarding them for the speed with which they react to that, is probably the final battleground, if you like, of mobile marketing. And it's happening now. And I think people like ourselves, but I think most other platforms, now understand that delivering a discount or a reward or any kind of engagement and then sitting back and waiting for people to come is going to result in being like one of those other stores, and somebody's going to come straight over the top of you and deliver a more relevant, more actionable offer because they understand the customer better than you do. And that's ultimately the kind of final part of the insights and the data that drives our business and that I think is increasingly driving brands' businesses. Thank you very much.